Okay, that should be us live.
Right, well, I'll just get it tweeted, Pieman. Hopefully we are. Following a technical delay. Sorry about that for the two people waiting in the chat. That's probably just me and you waiting in the chat there, Pieman, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is, to be honest. Yeah, but still good to have us on board, I suppose.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So, right, anyway, we're live. We're back on the golf. Thanks for tuning in. There's only one place to start, Pieman. So, a fortnight ago, you had a 50-1 winner. Last week, we tried to back it up, and we had a 22-1 winner, courtesy of Pieman. So, just to clarify for the viewers, so this is week number 7 of the golf coming up. So, we've had 6 weeks in the bag. You've staked 35 points. That's either, usually it's 1 point each way, but there has been a 2 points win in there. So you've staked 35 points and you've returned 103.4 points, thanks to Patrick Cantlay winning the Memorial last week. But that doesn't tell the whole story, does it, Pieman? So fill us in on how and why Patrick Cantlay managed to win the Memorial last week.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say there's a bit of a caveat to it. It was, shall we say, a bit of a fortunate winner. But we have enough bad breaks, so I'm not going to apologise too much for that. I did feel dreadfully sorry for John Rahm, who was the man who lost out on it all. If you weren't following, John Rahm was the leader by 6 shots at the end of the third round. He was absolutely destroying the field, to be honest. Cantlay and Morikawa were the men 6 shots back. So we were very much in line to cash a place regardless. But, I was starting to give up on the win side of things. But, yeah, as Rahm walked off the 18th green, he was greeted by 2 PGA Tour officials who told him that he tested positive for COVID. And that was the end of his tournament. He was going to immediate isolation. It was quite funny, actually, on the American broadcast. They finished the broadcast as Rahm come off the green. So the guy that was finishing the broadcast was kind of reading off his script, saying, we'll be back from 7 a.m. tomorrow for the conclusion of the... And meanwhile, you're looking at footage of Rahm, like, basically in tears on the side of the green. No one's given any context as to why he's upset. So it was just absolute guesswork for about 15 minutes as to what had gone on before the news started filtering out. And, not a way that you want to benefit, really. I feel for him because he's lost a lot of ranking points through that. But equally, as I say, we get enough bad breaks. And when it come to it the next day, it wasn't like a foregone conclusion by any stretch. I mean, Morikawa was one of my favourite players on the tour, so I was really I was not confident that Cantlay was going to get the job done, to be honest. I thought it could have gone either way, to be honest. They were 3 clear of the rest, so it was a bit of a straight shootout. It flipped and flopped a little bit, got very interesting towards the end. And then, a dramatic playoff hole where Cantlay went horribly right off the tee. I thought we were toast. But then, Morikawa, we had another bit of luck. Morikawa's ball had sort of lodged in the mud in the middle of the fairway. Duffed his second shot. Cantlay played a wonderful recovery and then hauled a really good putt to win it. So, emotional roller coaster. But, a 22-1 winner to back up the 50-1 winner. So, we won't complain and we'll try and go again for the hat-trick.
Well, we've had a couple of comments, Pieman. We've got Backheel Plays in the chat saying what's the next fluke, and Fair Play's giving us a round of applause. But we have had a couple of we've had a bit of luck on last week's selection and the eventual winner, Cantlay. Don't get me wrong, but for those that are quite new to this channel, there is plenty of times when we're both of us personally and jointly have been on the wrong end of such events. I mean, this one is quite out there, someone testing COVID, 6 shots clear. I think he was 104 or something on Betfair, 107, something ridiculous. Yes, we've had a big slice of luck. Well, Pieman, as he can take all the credit, we've had a big slice of luck, but we're more often than not on the wrong end of things like this. And we've got some stories to tell. For anyone that is interested in odd luck stories, we could start a whole new channel just on those. So.
I won't be apologising, Adam. Won't be apologising.
No, I'm taking it, definitely. We're not going to be apologising. We're going to be looking at this week the Palmetto Championship as normal. Pieman will talk us through the tournament itself, a bit about the course, what you might need to be going close or winning this event, and then we'll be going on to the selections for this week. Normally there's 3 from Pieman, but we'll have to wait for another maybe 10 or so minutes before we get the all-important picks. Pieman, tell us about the Palmetto Championship.
Well, there's not a lot to tell, to be honest. This is the first time they've ever had this event. It's replacing the Canadian Open, which was delayed. They announced that they weren't going to be having it earlier in the year when there was concerns, the COVID situation was a little bit worse in America at the time. it was generally agreed that travelling to Canada over the Canadian border might just be like unnecessarily problematic. It actually got scrapped the year before in the heart of the pandemic, so this is 2 years now that Canada have been denied their kind of marquee event on the tour, so a bit of a shame for them. But one course's loss is another's gain, and we get what is a very unique looking course this week. I'm quite looking forward to it. It's just a shame that the field is pretty weak.
Yeah, well, even myself just getting up odds checker, Pieman, and I'm still learning about the golf, as we know. I've seen better fields in our 7 week career into previewing the golf. Yeah, I've seen better fields. So yeah, where are we this week? So we're not in Canada. We're in South Carolina.
Yeah, a bit of a switch over to South Carolina, but the course itself is called Congaree, not to be mixed up with the former Gold Cup winner Coneygree. But
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Just with the racing, don't want to send you on the wrong course there. So it's a very unique looking course, as I say, very different to what we're used to in the PGA Tour. There's no rough. That's the main takeaway I got from looking and researching on this course. So all the grass is one cut, nice wide fairways, and if you do still manage to miss the fairway, what you're going to be greeted with is a kind of sandy terrain. Wouldn't quite call it a bunker. Probably plays a little bit easier than a bunker. You'd still rather be on the fairway naturally, but it's not that punishing, an alternative. It's a lot better than hacking out of the rush, like the rough we saw at Muirfield Village last week, for example, was pretty brutal. You didn't want to be going in there, whereas, here, it's not that much of a punishment, and that makes me think that it's going to suit long hitters because you can kind of take that risk off the tee, knowing that if you do, splash it right or left, it's not an absolute disaster. It's going to be a little bit of a wait and see. I've read a lot of people saying that they're just giving this tournament a miss because it's a little bit of a blind one. We don't really know what to expect, but I've decided to have a go. We're keeping the point stakage lower than a normal week, I think it's fair to say. But as I say, the main takeaway I'm getting, I think, a favour for power. It's a particularly long course. 7,600 yards is long for a par 72. This is actually a par 71. I'm not sure it'll play as long as that because they reckon that the course is very firm and fast. So when the ball lands, it'll travel another 30, 40, 50 yards, just roll. So you might not necessarily need to hit it long to get it long kind of thing. But again, that's going to be another wait and see thing. Luke List has the course record here. He's a real, strange player on the tour. He never really wins anything, but he can sometimes pop up as a first round leader because he just bombs it a mile. So he's a very inconsistent player, but the fact that he's got the course record suggests to me that distance will be an advantage.
So you've just touched on the field there, Luke List. But yeah, like we've already alluded to, probably the weakest field we've seen so far this year, Pieman. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, I'm sure you'll give us a market run through, but you've got Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka, and then beyond that, you've got players that you're normally finding in the sort of 50s and 60s range are in there at under 20 to 1, under 25 to 1. So, yeah, it's a particular weak field. But look, they don't know, they don't change out how much you win on certain prices, depending on the quality of the field. And I'm sure, as a racing man yourself, you'll know that even if it's a poor quality race, if there's value there, then there's value there. So, still had a good look.
Yep, someone's still got to win. I was just going to note as well that, and I think you might have touched on it, it's the US Open next week, so a couple of them might be having a rest. But anyway, we're going to have a quick run through the market. Dustin Johnson, 8 to 1. Brooks Koepka just behind him at 9. Tyrrell Hatton, 14. Matt Fitzpatrick, 16. Sungjae Im, one of our favourites, at 22. Tommy Fleetwood, 25. Harris English, another one who we've touched on, 30. Norrens, 35. Harold Varner III, never heard of him, he's 35 and shortening. Ian Poulter, we all know who he is, he's 35 and shortening as well. So that's the top of the market there, Pieman. You said there might be a reduced staking plan this week. Where's your money going?
Well, yeah, there will be a reduced staking plan. Normally, I've been spreading about 6 points around the field. I'm only going to do 4 this week. There's one person I'm going to go point each way on, and then a couple of real long shots that'll be half a point each way. But I think it's fair to warn people if you come in here because you've seen a 50 to 1 winner and a 22 to 1 winner. That is unlikely to be continuing. And I really have thrown some darts this week. And I'll chuck you straight in there. My first selection and my most confident selection hasn't won an event in a decade.
That's
what we're going straight in with.
Get that in the description.
Yeah, Lucas Glover is a 40-1 chance, or he was when I looked. He may have even shortened further. You got the market in front of you, Adam.
Who are we talking? Luke Glover.
Lucas Glover.
I've got him near 45 he is, Pieman.
Well, there we go.
If you want 5 places, if you want the 8, which is generally the best, you're looking at 40. So we'll call it 40-1.
We'll have 40 for 8 places there in that case.
Yeah,
1 point each way on Lucas Glover. Let me just tell you a little bit about why I've put Lucas Glover up, because it's not the most inspirational description, I'll admit, but this is a former US Open champion, fittingly enough, given the US Opens next week. Yeah, we are going back 12, 13 years for that, I'll admit. So, how relevant that is, not so sure. But what we do have here in Lucas Glover is a player that is trending in the right direction, and most importantly, has course knowledge. And I think course knowledge at an unusual track like this is going to be a huge advantage, because a lot of these guys, I reckon, we can't be sure. I haven't spoken to all the players individually, but I would suggest the amount of people that have played this course is probably only just into double figures. So I reckon a very small fragment of the field has played this course. Now, Lucas Glover is actually an ambassador at this course, which is the equivalent of a member. So, I mean, this is a course that he's very, very familiar with. When I've been looking for little quotes and little nuggets of information, his name's repeatedly cropped up as someone who's talked openly about the course or is on record talking about the layout. I'm really interested by his comments. Says that it's a course that you have to get creative. There's a lot of difficult angles, and it'll favour somebody who can think outside the box. Now, he didn't say it in as many words, but that says to me that if you've got knowledge of where you need to be creative and how you maybe need to be creative, then that could be a huge advantage over someone who ends up in a funny bit of terrain and has never played the course before and doesn't have a clue what to do with it. I mean, this guy, overplaying it again and again and again, has probably been on every blade of grass, sand and whatever you find on this course. So I see him competing, and what's more, the form figures are really encouraging. As I say, he's had all his success a lot earlier in his career, to be honest, but just to give you a snapshot, this is a guy that's faded in and out of form over the years. So some years he's a perennial cup maker, some years he's horrendous. Last year, 2020, for example, he had a run of 9 events where 7 of them he missed the cut. So he was in absolutely abysmal form for most of 2020. Fast forward to now, and his last 10 events, he's only missed the cut once. He was tied 8th at the Charles Schwab Challenge a couple of weeks ago. He was 4th at the Texas Open when Spieth won recently. So there's a lot of good form there. And as I say, this is his course. He knows it inside out. The price is short, I admit, for someone who hasn't won for a long time. But in a week that is packed full of unknowns, there's one man that does know this course, and he's my main selection, Lucas Glover.
I like it, Pieman. So just to confirm, that's Lucas Glover 40-1. There's 8 places available. And with form such as his, that price could well be disappearing in the next 24 hours, Pieman. That's the first selection. So normally at this time every week, I say, what is the bomb? And 2 weeks ago, you gave me the bomb selection of Jason Kokrak, and he went on at 1 at 50-1. So where are we going this week?
Well, I wouldn't be as confident on these two, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. If you think that last selection was fanciful, these two really are stretching it. But I've got to be honest with you, it's that kind of week. This is one of the weakest, lineups you're likely to see. And just for a bit of context, I will just touch on the guys at the top of the market. You've got Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka. They're the two standout names. Now, Dustin Johnson is the favourite. He's been in pretty poor form, hasn't really competed, been missing a lot of cuts recently. However, I'll give him it. These are the kind of events just prior to a major that he tends to turn up as a tune-up event, and he could win by 4 or 5 shots. But in his form, you couldn't be backing him at the price he is. Brooks Koepka, out of the two, makes a lot more appeal. However, you may remember that just before the US PGA Championship, there was an event just before the US PGA Championship, I put Brooks Koepka up, saying that I thought, if he came and played his game and he really fancied it, he would have a chance of competing. And it was quite a big price. He missed the cut. He was awful, right? A week later, at the major, he was outstanding. Finished second, just beaten by Phil Mickelson, right? So it just shows to me that Koepka uses these events the week before the major as a bit of a tune-up. He's not really bothered about winning this event. He'll be trying things, experimenting with his driver probably. So there's no way you could put him up confidently given his record prior and the event prior to a major. Next week, different story. He seems to always turn up for the big event. So, I would definitely consider him next week. And then, you're getting into the likes of the English guys. I don't know if this is because it's a bit of a linksy course, but people seem to be looking at Fitzpatrick, looking at Poulter. They're looking at, the likes of Fleetwood as well, also features quite prominently. But these are guys that, at the prices, you're still taking a bit of a leap to back them. And I don't know, for me, we've seen 200 to 1, 300 to 1 winners this year already. So why not look into these realms of the markets? And that takes me back to the second selection. And as I say, I've gone for someone in my main selection that hasn't won in a decade. My second selection will be someone who's making his professional debut. So, yeah, this is John Pak. John Pak is the second selection, half a point each way. I think you get 125 to 1, 8 places. You might think that's
I've got some news for you, mate. I've got some news for you. You can get 150 to 1, 8 places.
Even better.
Mr. Pak.
Even better.
Yep.
Sign me up. John Pak, 8 places, 150. He's making his pro debut. He comes out of Florida State. Now, I can't quantify.
I love this.
I can't quantify where this ranks really, because this is effectively amateur. It's college golf, right, that he's playing. So It's very hard to say where these wins rank. He's won 8 times at college level. He's the number 1 amateur, and this is his professional debut. He's following in the footsteps of the likes of Colin Morikawa, who won on his 6th professional start, and Matt Wolff, who won on his 3rd professional start. Now, is it a leap of faith to say he'll win on his first professional start? Yes, huge. It's almost ridiculous, to be honest. However, what I would say is Morikawa and Wolff won weaker in tougher fields than this. So the college system in America is proven. If you win that college system, you're a quality operator, right? He's come into this. It's quite a weak field. He's got that kind of arrogance of youth when they first arrive. They can ruffle a few feathers, as you see in all sports, really, because we see it in darts all the time. We see players burst onto the scene and do really well in the Pro Tours, and then they have a bit of a lull, because when they first come in, they're riding that crest of a wave. There's a confidence there, an invincibility almost. I would not be surprised to see this lad turn up and do some damage in the first couple of days, and then, collapse. But I'm just looking at that area of the market, and I think a lot of these guys at 125, 150 on a normal week, there will be 300, 400. These are real, no-hopers. So I'm looking for somebody that's coming in with no marks on him, no battle scars, a little bit of an unknown quantity. I think a couple of people have maybe followed in the same line of thought, because I actually thought it would be more like 200. But for sheer form, I'm putting up John Pak at 150.
Yeah, I like it. I like it, Pieman. And I've got a little suspicion that your third selection is also 150 to 1, 8 places as well, Pieman. So are you going half a point each way on this selection?
They're both half a point each way, yeah. And
right.
I believe that if we're on the same wavelength, we're talking about Satoshi Kodaira.
Yeah, well-known golfer. I've heard a lot about Satoshi.
Satoshi Kodaira is actually not a new name on the tour. He's another one in the Lucas Glover mold, really. He's been around a long time and he's not won a lot, to be honest. So he did win the Heritage a long time ago. We're talking 7 or 8 years ago now. But there's been a noticeable upward trend in his game. And I don't know if this is linked, but it seems to me, since Hideki Matsuyama, his countryman, won the Masters, Satoshi Kodaira seems to have found a bit of a renaissance. And this is a stretch to call it a renaissance, because he's playing in pretty average events and he's not doing that well. But there's underlying statistics in his game that make me think he may be trending in the right kind of direction. At least he's won on the tour before, you know what I mean? You know that he can compete, he's got it in him somewhere. He's had a top 10 finish recently, a couple of top 20s. He's also had a couple of miscuts, but again, I'm saying this is a kind of week where I think maybe a name that you just, you couldn't have had in a million years is going to pop up. And, someone that's got a top 10 finish quite recently in a stronger field than this, if he can repeat that kind of form in this weaker field, he could be a place runner. Am I saying he's going to win? No. He's probably the least confident selection of the 3, and none of them are particularly resounding this week, as you can probably tell. But I will stress this. I think that Johnson and Koepka are opposable, and I think that whoever wins it could well be a crazy price.
Well, there you go, Pieman. So there's not only one bomb for you this week. There's two bombs, and the shortest price selection is bombish at 40-1. But Pieman, I'm not going to argue with you. I've never heard of any of these fellas, but you've backed a 50-1 winner and a 22-1 winner in the last fortnight. So who am I to argue with you?
Well, sometimes I'm my own worst enemy. I can overthink it sometimes, and maybe this week was one to be left. I've lowered the staking plan though, and I just I don't think you can be put off having a go at something a little bit outside of the box in these kind of fields. We've seen some bonkers results this year. I mean, Phil Mickelson winning at 300-1. You won't have found many people backing that. Stuart Sink winning after a major at a similarly crazy price. We had KH Lee winning recently at 250-1. So you've got to be willing to look in these parts of the markets, and when it's a weak field, what better time to you've almost got to create your own stories and create your own hypotheses in these kind of tournaments. And I'm here for it. We're in form. Let's ride the wave.
Yeah. Right. Well, thanks for those that are in the chat. We've got a couple of shout outs. We've got Backheel Plays. I don't quite know who it is by name, but I'm sure you'll be able to tell me in private.
I think it's Mike.
He seems to have
a
Carlisle
Mike.
selection connection. We've got Andy Jones in there. Boing Andy Jones. Thanks for tuning in. We've got Lee Jones in there as well, of no relation. And then most recently we've got Wayne Harrison in there. And I tell you what, if anyone wants a winner, just follow Wayne Harrison, because he don't back many losers. That man. Yeah. So I'll just recap, Pieman, on your three selections by quote rather than by name. So your first selection, Lucas Glover, 8 places, 40-1, 1 point each way. Your quote on that was, my first selection hasn't won an event in over a decade. That's Lucas Glover. The second selection is a fellow called John Pak, 150-1, half a point each way, 8 places. The quote on that one was, and my second selection is making his professional debut. And then on to the third selection, which was the least confident, but it's still half a point each way, which will be going on the doubles and trebles spreadsheet, is Satoshi Kodaira. And your quote on that was, he's playing in below average events and not doing that well.
So what can I say? It's not my most resounding set of selections, but it's not the most resounding event. So maybe something will land for us. And look, you're playing at those kind of prices, 150 and the likes. You're getting a place. I mean, you're well up for the week if you can nick a place, and it won't take much to nick a place this week, to be honest.
We've had a question from Lee Rogers. I don't know how much of a serious one it has been. Lee Jones is asking any thoughts on Patrick Rodgers, and I know why he's asking that, because I think there's been a bit of smart money round for Mr. Patrick Rodgers today, Pieman, at around 150-1.
I did notice that myself. I wonder if you could offer me any insight on that myself, Lee. It's not really someone that's been on my radar that much, Patrick Rodgers. I saw the money around for Luke List, and that made sense to me with the course record and stuff. But yeah, I would be very open to ideas in terms of where.
Well, I'll give you an idea. I'll give you an idea on Patrick Rodgers.
Please do.
Of the say 12 suppliers on Oddschecker, there's 2 suppliers at 150. 4 suppliers at 150 on Patrick Rodgers, and there's 2 suppliers at 80. So I think that the two that are at 80 might have seen a little bit of each way money around for Patrick Rodgers.
Well,
so good luck if you've got on the big prices with those 2 suppliers.
Can I just say that there's a lot of smarter golfer people than me that have all kind of algorithms and models and whatnot going on the go. I just tend to, I'm quite, I try to get a feel for when I'm doing things, and I'm looking for little quotes, snippets of insight, and possibly alternative angles, because I think trying to beat the algorithms on these sports is difficult. Unless you're a Wayne Harrison, you're going to be struggling, and I've got to try and find my edges elsewhere, I'm afraid. So. While I always appreciate the insight and the analytical side of things, it's elsewhere I'm looking for mine.
Good. Right, well, we'll wrap it up there. Pieman's going for a hat-trick, and I am going to repeat myself. 50-1 winner, followed by a 22-1 winner, and we're going for the hat-trick this week with Pieman. There's plenty of stuff going on this week. We've got darts content. We've got an anti-post preview coming for a race that is nearly 4 months away, and then next week is what with Royal Ascot, so there'll be plenty of content on all sports over the coming days. So thanks for tuning in this evening. Thanks, shout out to the chat. Brendan Smith just joined as well, one of the